Hello, Leslie Lazenby here. Hi, how are you? Sure. What's going on? No problem. Well, heck, anything for FPP. Okay, hey, I'll talk to you later. Oh, whoa, wait a minute. You're not going to send like that John Fideli guy to run the camera, are you? Mirage? Matt Mirage? That'll be just fine. Hey, I'll talk to you later. Have a good day. Bye. Why didn't I check the caller ID? Well, that was Mr. Michael Rosso, founder of Film Photography Project. And he asked me to talk to you today about the Polaroid Instant 35mm slide system. And I said I'd be happy to. But actually it'll take me just a little bit to get everything together, so bear with me and I'll collect all the parts and I'll be right back with you. And there we go, through the magic of television. Well, the system consisted of instant slide film, standard 35mm slide film that you could put into any 35mm camera. And you have to remember that when this was introduced in 1983, survived through about 2003, that slide and slide presentations were king. They were used in industry, they were used in education, they were used in medicine for teaching, they were used in even advertising. So slides were king. And when you're dealing with that amount of material, there's always things that had to be changed quickly if there were errors or additions to stay on top of things. And the Polaroid Instant Slide System allowed you to shoot, process, mount a slide in nearly 5 minutes or less. So it was actually quite an undertaking. It was a technical spin-off of the Polavision movie camera system. And I say technical because there were some flaws with that. They were corrected with this, and they made a whole lineup of film that they didn't offer for the Polavision movie camera. One of the first films that they introduced was the traditional straight color film, the CS, color slide, standard film, and it came in 12 exposures and 36, I believe, and just a standard color frame. This color framed film is a high contrast. It was great for graphs and presentations and used primarily for that, or low contrast subjects also used in the medical field for that situation. That was the first of the films that were introduced. Now you'll notice this box is gray and it eventually went to blue. It's kind of a little secret when I'm looking for these on eBay to buy, because everything has been discontinued. And this box is gray and it tells me immediately that this is older stock. The blue boxes are newer stock. This was also something that was rather unique at the time. This was a traditional continuous tone black and white instant slide film. 125 speed, so we're getting a little snappier here. They also made this in the high contrast version. There again, graphs, presentations, and title slides, things like that. Now those 4 slide films are as we think of slide films. They are positives. They also made one negative version. This is called Pola Blue. And the Pola Blue would shoot a white piece of paper with black text, and when you processed it, it became a beautiful blue background with white lettering on it. And so to get a positive of this, which some people did, you would have to contact print this in the darkroom with black and white negatives, all very techy at the time, but still kind of made a neat fine art presentation. Now, I rarely use these films for what they were designed for. I use them more as fine art films. Really, and to this day, enjoy them and miss them. The favored one of mine is the high contrast black and white. Now, one thing that's a little bit different, as I talked about the speeds of the others, this is a 400 ASA or ISO film. It looks like a big box, like maybe we're getting 2 rolls in there. But actually not. What we get in the box is our roll of film. Looks very traditional at this point. And we get a processing cube. And there's a little tail on there that we'll have to have out later on. Now, one thing that's a little bit different is you'll notice there are notches cut in the tail of the film. They correspond with notches in the processor. And this film is also not DX coded. This was before DX coding. So if you have a camera that sets your film automatically with the DX coding, setting the film speed, you'll need to dial it in separately, independently. So once we put this into our camera and we shoot it all up, and you'll treat it just like any traditional 35mm film when you shoot this. A lot of times, if you're not real careful and you're all finished with your roll of film, the tail's wound in when you're all finished. Polaroid thought of that. They're never going to leave you in the dark. They don't want you in the dark room, and they never leave you in the dark. With your processor came this really cool little tail puller right here. And it doesn't work for other films. And you could use a traditional film leader retriever on this if that's what you had. This came with the processor. And once again, just like Polaroid, everything is spelled out in pictures. And a few little turns backwards. And of course, there we go. There we go. Grabs our tail for us. So at this point, we've shot our pictures and we're ready to process our film. There were two processors. The initial processor, even though it was called an auto processor, was still manually driven, manually cranked. The later version was electric. There again, this is very traditional for Polaroid. Everything in pictures, everything spelled out right on the top of the processor. It opens with a little clip on the front. And inside, there again, we have more pictures on how to load it. Everything's spelled out very nicely. Okay, so the first step is putting the processing cube into the processor. The little tab or the little tongue fits right underneath, snaps in. You see approximately how it fits in there. Everything's very definite, nothing floats around loose. The little tail itself is notched just like the film, and it fits onto the little matching tab down here, way down there. We then put in the roll of film. You'll notice this is a little loose here, and it does not matter. It doesn't have to be tight, doesn't have to be exact. It will take care of itself. The film itself fits into this slot right here. The tail goes through the opening above the tail of the processor. Slip that in there. And once again, this is going to attach onto these little hubs down here, the matching marks. And then the fun begins. Close it up, close the lid. Now we're going to follow the instructions on the top of the box. Almost. Now, as I mentioned, this is the high contrast version. It has a little bit different processing time than what's on the lid of this, so you need to read the instruction sheet that comes in every box. They're all the same. They didn't change the times. It's not like the old Polaroid product, whereas production changed, times changed. They were always the same. This high contrast is a 2-minute film. So the first thing we do, as instructed, crank goes down. Wait 5 seconds. This is kind of distributing, opening up the pod, distributing the chemistry. I'm going to turn this because I'm right-handed. I've waited my 5 seconds, and I'll turn the crank. That's a good sound. And all at once, this is a very short roll, only 12 exposures. It's going to get snug on me and won't allow me to go any further. And there it is. And now we wait. Check your watch. 2 minutes are gone. Once again, according to the instructions, lever goes up. You're going to crank in exactly the same direction. There's no reverse on this that you have to deal with. So once again, I'll crank. And now what I'm doing is I'm separating that tongue of chemistry and the original film's going back into the cassette. The negative part is being stripped off with the chemistry, and it's going back into the developing pod. And all at once again, get a point to where we stop, right there. And when I open this up, it looks very similar to what I had. Processing cube comes, let's take the film out first, and the processing cube comes out. All the used chemistry is now in here. You throw it away. You have to touch nothing. Your film is now, hopefully, your film is now perfect. There they are. Now, occasionally with the older film, you may see some of the black negative material on here. A lot of times you can actually just roll this off with your finger. If it's really bad, you can actually run this under water. It'll just peel right off. Hang it to dry. Make sure it's thoroughly dry. This, I usually at this point let this dry just a few minutes, and then I wind it back into the cassette. And I'll show you why I do this. This is really the speed part of the system. Because yes, it processes your film quickly, but we also have to mount this. So Polaroid has this absolutely nifty little processor, the cutter on it. They have their own slide mounts, which are ingenious. The film in the cassette drops down into, and I would typically put this on a light table. I can see through it, because at this point you'll use, when I load it properly, there we go, you'll use the little crank, and it's going to advance my film through here. I can see on the light table exactly, now I'm going to just hold this in reverse, sorry about that, to where my first frame is. And I advanced the handle down, and it cut the tail off. That's very nice. And the slide mounts are hinged. They look like this. They will fit into this little tray. I usually do this down. As I turn this, the slide itself, see that, is threaded into the mount. And I can almost do this without looking at it, because I will turn this until it stops. It's fully seated into the mount. I cut it, take it out, fold it up, and my slide is now ready for projection. And if my camera, my 35mm camera, is reasonably good on framing and centering my frames, I barely even have to look at this. I can put the next mount in, bring it in, cut it, and move on. So there it is. There's the Polaroid Instant Slide System. They're very strange. When you look at them, you think, this is not so great. View them, definitely view through them. They're beautiful. They're just gorgeous little silver pieces of chrome. If you have any more questions about Polaroid, Polaroid film, Polaroid cameras, or film in general, your vintage camera, you can always contact them anytime, or if you just want to say hi, contact them at podcast@filmphotographyproject.com. If you're looking for the newest thing in 110 film, or looking to buy a vintage Polaroid camera, or some things that are exclusive to Film Photography Project, you may want to visit filmphotographystore.com. You want to get everything all together, you can get podcasts, you can go to the store, you can leave them an email, you can enter the contest. Just do it all in one place. Oh, there we go. filmphotographyproject.com. Thanks, everyone. Matt?
I think we did pretty good.
Oh, crap. I forgot our sponsor.
What sponsor?
Uncle Henny's hot and spicy. What the hell's in this stuff?
I fire. That's what's in it.